Okay, we are going to be starting our second meeting, the athletic meeting. Dr. Short?
Thank you, Mrs. Warning. This is a continuation of conversation that we've had regarding the athletic fields, both softball and baseball up to high school, and various options that have been debated extensively for the past year and a half. The district has already approved, the board has already approved the softball and baseball field artificial turf prior to COVID. And since then, and the opportunity has presented itself with various additions, included the what we call the auxiliary field, phys ed field, but also utilization of a permanent fence that would replace the chain link fences that if you had an opportunity to go up to the high school, you could see how poor condition they are in. In fact, I believe they just should be thrown out the way they look. But we do have some options and prices for the public, the board to see tonight, as was requested by the board at the last Buildings and Grounds meeting and regular school board meeting. So we're going to take the opportunity to review these in detail. If the board or anyone has any questions, we will be sure to answer those. And it can be somewhat confusing, so please, if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. In front of you will be option A, or what I call option 1. And this is the addition of the physical education field turf. And this is to be done through Shaw Sports. Bob, do you want to go through and discuss A through F as they are listed? And we will try to answer any questions or add any information we can.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Short. Letter A, Shaw Sports. We did talk about this more in depth at our last meetings and the school board meeting. They required additional excavation, fuel costs, price increases due to the supply chain issues, the oil issues. So that $209,270 is a change order that is based on those items and county regulation changes. So those, item A is something that we need to do for our fields. It was increasing costs due to everything that we have. Item B, this pertains strictly to the softball area. It is to remove the bleachers, remove the existing dugouts and pads, and add a sidewalk. We would move the dugouts to a more logical place, might be the best word for it. They're in an odd area right now. Nobody here really knows why, but they're kind of in a strange place. We would move them to the traditional areas along the baselines. And then we would redo pads for the bleachers to put them elsewhere along the fields. So that's what the $77,417 would be for. We have options of leaving things where they are and saving some money. Item C, champion wall fence at the baseball field. That would be a solid fence, as Dr. Short explained, that resembles a major league fence, an outfield fence that is solid, that would go from the one foul pole across the outfield to the other foul pole. So the entire outfield would have a solid fence. In our situation, it would be multiple levels because of the distances and automobile parking, things like that, that we have to protect. So that would be for that champion wall fence, which also I believe Dr. Short alluded to was the opportunities for sponsorships. on that fence.
And this is the fence that we absolutely have to replace, like we can't
Yeah,
keep
that
the one
fence
there
is-
that is
Right,
there.
that
Okay.
one has to go.
No matter what, we,
It's
okay.
pretty bad shape.
What are we doing with the third base and first base fencing?
Well, that's something that's gonna be taken off in-house and done with the ultra netting that they have that, actually our guys will put in. So that would be replacing all that damaged fence that you see over the years, pepper ball and lawnmowers and all of those things combined that created the damage that's up there.
Yeah, all that stuff is over 20 years old.
Yeah, it's going on 24.
Essentially, the poles would be salvaged,
Yeah, and painted,
painted
And-
green to match what they were before.
the netting would
And the
go.
netting would be applied as well.
And the netting is a significant upgrade to sight lines.
Yeah.
And it's
and
significantly
viewability.
cheaper than fencing.
And it's very
Yeah.
safe, obviously. It's safe for the spectator.
95, 98% see-through, I forget what the number is. But,
So,
I think Maiko is also just pulling up a Champion Wall Twitter to give everyone a view of what Champion Wall is. If you could scroll down, Maiko. Keep going down.
Mr. Hall, is this what they recommend type of
Keep going
fencing?
down. Could you
This type of
could you
fencing,
blow up
is
that
this
one
what
right there,
they're
Maiko?
using?
The video back and forth. Yeah.
Who, other,
Other,
this would, yeah, this is something that would be, it would be clearly one of the better outfield fences in our region. But when you think of the places like even CCAC has a solid outfield wall, although not the same material. You got, the place like PNC Park or Pitt.
Scroll down, Maiko. There's a
Those kind
video.
of places all have, this type of wall or padded wall.
See it right
This
there.
is what's recommended for safety and stuff.
Absolutely.
So let me
It's
describe
safe
it out
and-
loud.
and again,
Regular chain fence has wires that wrap around one another in a certain grid fashion. What we're looking at here on the screen has canvas sort of strung over top of it in front of it.
that's a little more solid than that.
A little more solid than that.
Solid fencing, it's not a tarp or something.
Plus you're able to paint on those certain advertisements and
Right.
it's much improved over just a regular standard chain link
Absolutely.
arrangement. Okay.
And if we go with this wall, we are putting the scoreboard with inside the wall.
That hasn't been brought to me as of yet, but
If we do
it
that,
can be.
we would Title IX that with the other one, correct?
I would not in that. In Title IX there's some research going on with what's actually expected under Title IX.
As long as there is a outfield fence, as long as there is a scoreboard, it does not go into a Title IX.
Well, I think if we do this fence for the boys, we should.
Scroll back, scroll up, Maiko. Other way. Go down a little bit.
if you're doing one, why wouldn't you do the same as for the other?
Click on that right
Put
there.
that down
Make that
further on
larger.
our list.
You can see how they embedded the
Fence?
Yeah.
scoreboard into the champion wall.
And our scoreboard vendor that we've used in the stadium, OES, has a model that, gives you all the innings, runs, hits, errors, who's at bat, can be logoed up at an archway like we have in Anna Marino Stadium. If you put it above the fence,
We have a cost on it?
or you can put it into the fence.
Go back up, Maiko. I want to show another video.
Do we have a cost on that scoreboard?
I don't think we do.
I do not.
At one point, we were talking about adding audio into these fields. Is
That's
this,
something we're doing in-house. Yeah, Maiko actually has some things in his budget for it
Wiring's
that we're
done.
doing.
so that doesn't need to be.
Right, that's not part of this.
Other way, Maiko.
The wiring was done with the light project along with Musco Vision, which is basically a home plate and a center field camera to live stream games as well.
Okay, so that's handy.
That's already done.
Keep going.
Yes.
Right there.
There's no, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. One more. That one, blow that one up. Give you an idea of what it would look like.
So for the folks at home, we're looking at from the batter's position, we're looking all the way to the opposite end of the field, and we see that there's a really nice high fence out there, and it's wrapped around with some sort of canvas, and part of the fence is also actually a scoreboard. It's tall enough that you can easily read it from the stands.
Yeah, the whole thing will be from.
Right, and it would be kind of flipped for us. Our left field would be the 10-foot fence and where the scoreboard would be as it is now. And again, not to nitpick, but it's different than canvas. I mean, it's a true solid corrugated,
Now that cuts down wind
polyurethane.
and
Yeah.
distractions from the outside and people standing.
Sidelines for the
It
batter.
also allows the viewing public that is taking advantage of positioning themselves by the outfield fence currently above where parking is located for administration. They've set up, chairs, and now this would bring everyone into the venue.
How high will that ball be at its lowest?
6.
6 foot.
Very good.
And as far as the scoreboard, depending on placement and visibility, actually, that's something that you got to look at. Our current scoreboards are situated at 10 foot at the bottom, so they're seen above it. So there is those options. The scoreboard at both fields were replaced this year that were approved by the board in the past. We did not purchase the Gateway Middle scoreboard yet. So if that would be the case, and we can get you the different layouts of the scoreboards for cost purposes, that one would go right over there, and it was built into that project, so there'd be no additional cost as far as that goes.
Did anybody take into consideration what the cost is to turf the infield over at the junior high? And if we would not turf the infield over there and use that money to do the physical ed field here?
We have those costs, I don't know that dollar figure out. Yes, we brought those costs to the board, but I don't have that exact number. Mr. Schutt will have that in his files. I gave all that to him.
So instead of, I think we talked about this, instead of turfing the middle school.
Just the infield, because they cut the outfield.
And then using what monies we would use for that turfing of the outfield, bring it here.
And
And
turf
then possibly relook at that again
down the
at
line.
another time.
Yes.
It's an option.
Now, what is the difference between D and E here? Are we talking we need both of these things, or is this a one or the other?
All right, well, D would be the next one on there. That pertains to the softball field only. Okay, the fencing at the softball field is not in great condition either.
Down the lines.
Down the lines, it needs new fabric is what it really needs.
Zoom in on the fields, Micah.
You're moving the field.
The plans are to move the field 7 feet towards Route 48 to create a walkway
Okay.
in between the two fields to lessen the distance for the patrons. So what that D is, new sideline fences, new backstop, and now there's no outfield fence included in that. We back that out, and E would be the cost of champion wall for the softball outfield fence at a 6-foot height, the entire distance.
So both of these items are needed.
Yes.
But you have a choice on the champion wall, yes or no. If you use the cyclone fence, that, it's $60,000 less if you don't do the champion wall.
We would get chastised.
You might, that's why we did them both, so you could see the difference.
Right, but either way, we need a fence back there.
We do.
Right, okay, that was,
If we really want, we could refabric that, it has to move anyway, so it all comes down and gets put back up.
And again, the girls can advertise on theirs and everything else.
But it makes sense to be uniform across.
Yes, it does. And it does exactly what Dr. Short said about bringing people into the field areas, for viewing.
And when we host playoff games, we were able to charge and not have people be sitting in the outfield
That
being able
too.
to watch.
This,
Those fences have been beat up because they're grass fields and the tractors that run.
Fence and bend it and
so
weeds.
does this include the walkway to one of these, because we have the walkway separate?
Well, that's why there's so many variables in this that we're, talking. That's really on number 2, on
And
page 2, number 2.
not to speak for Bob, but the reason that you wouldn't have to separately list the walkway on option 1 is because if that whole thing is turfed,
Yes,
That walkway is already part of that turf.
automatically.
Okay, so that's why it's not, that's what I was trying to
It's
figure
on
out.
number
like,
1
Okay,
and it's on number 2.
the whole
gotcha.
area
Yeah.
is turf, so the walkway's done already.
Yeah, it's done
So that would be a non-existing line item
of 53,600.
if one is done that way, okay.
So, and then that last item is the turfing of the phys ed area. The 845,750.
It's made that area up top.
That would be all of that area,
All the way to the parking lot.
all the way to the parking lot, even that little triangular area.
Go up a little bit, Micah.
So turfing that phys ed field, that would cut down on the use of our
Right, Joe.
football field being used as
It would
much.
also be a rentable field.
Right.
It wouldn't be a full-size field, although we could fit one. It would, actually, you don't want a boundary in the fence to be
The same.
right in the same place. So we would be slightly smaller, but yeah, it could be a practice field for any number of groups
And
and rentable field as well.
And our intent, as we discussed all this, if you decide to go forward with that, we would line the field, just as a stadium is. One end would have a soccer goal built into it, the other end a lacrosse goal built into it, so the practice areas would be designed. So we wouldn't need, other netting and any of those things, because primarily they're going to play their games in the stadium. But all the usage that we get in the stadium with football, 2 soccer teams, lacrosse team, band, we can spread these folks out and lengthen the time frame on the life of our field.
Well, not only that, it gives the opportunity for our physical education classes to
Yes.
be able to go outside,
Much more
right
often.
outside the gym
Right.
Yes.
more often.
Yeah, they do use the stadium,
How's
but
that fencing?
that would give them a much nicer area to utilize.
They want to use it to play soccer and have a soccer goal there, et cetera, et cetera.
But how's that fencing? So let's say we do that,
That's a chain link fence across the back
is
area.
it,
And it's
Yeah.
not bad because, again, it hasn't been played up against.
And beat up.
And beat up.
so that can be for another day, but it would be safe to bring out the kids from the gym or safe for soccer or lacrosse?
We already do that.
They do that now on the dirt areas of
Right there.
that, up in the upper right corner, they'll use that, we keep that in shape for them to use. And it's a distance
Say,
thing
you know what
as
we're
well.
speaking about?
How far,
You got that map, right?
Mhm.
That much I got.
Right. So let me,
That third field up top by the parking lot,
Okay.
yeah, so let me see if I can describe it out loud. We have a lot of grassy area. Right now, the high school baseball
Yes, thank you.
team plays on a field that's already well laid out. There's also a section that can be used for softball. There's also a third section that can be used for other things. If the lines, right, if the lines are painted on it, then people could play soccer because soccer requires lines, football requires lines,
they wouldn't be
lacrosse
painted, they would
requires.
be part of the turf, just like the stadium.
Right.
That way.
So
we
without the
never-
lines, you don't know where the goal is, where the blue line is, all these lines, they have to be placed out there. Once they're out there, then they can be used by high schools or outsiders or whatever. So that's the goal of upgrading the entire suite of these 3 big areas.
And just one other thought when we talk about facilities in general. related to athletics, every other sport, except for baseball, softball, shares the same facility. In other words, men's and women's soccer play in the same stadium. You know, men's and women's lacrosse, we don't have women's lacrosse here, but they have it in other high schools, same stadium. The basketball gym, same gym, the same pool, and so forth. The only one where you need to build two separate facilities because of dimensions and base distances and outfield fences is, and pitcher's mound and all those things, is baseball and softball. And again, it was brought up that, you know, that's why you try to do everything you do for baseball, for softball, and vice versa, so that you're gender, you know, equal there in Title IX stuff.
Somewhere along would go through, essentially it would go right here and there would be an entrance point in one of these areas.
All right, for those folks at home that can't see what's going on in the room, Dr. Short has just painted that there could be a walkway at the far end of the baseball field so that people could walk from the parking lot in a straight line into the stadium seating, and they wouldn't have to walk around the whole facility.
Right now, there's a large gate near Mosside Boulevard and a man gate a little farther toward the sports complex.
Sure.
We would enhance that entrance, that's the man gate, and you could walk directly between the two fields to either get to the baseball stadium or to the softball bleachers. Right now, no matter which side of the softball field you're going to sit on, you have to walk all the way around it, essentially mirroring Mosside Boulevard and then turning and mirroring Gateway Campus Boulevard to get to either side of the bleachers. Really, to get to the third base bleachers in softball, you have to walk all the way around past the first bleachers.
And these extra walkways that Dr. Short is pointing out makes it easier and more accessible and more friendly for people who want to come to the game to get there, get seated, get situated, and watch the game and enjoy it.
And weatherproof.
How far are you talking about moving the fence out towards Mosside?
7 feet. We did not, and the turf comes in 15-foot wide rolls.
Okay.
The reasoning behind the 7-foot number is to be able to utilize turf efficiently, and I do not want vehicles driving through there.
Okay.
So it was a twofold reason. We have no reason to bring trucks there. We don't, and if there's wide enough space, people do things you don't want them to do. So that was really the thought process behind that. 7 to 7.5 feet wide is plenty for people, wheelchairs,
Golf cart.
the golf cart. One big difference is the actual designated walkway area, whether we just do the walkway or we do the entire field. The walkway area will be treated differently with the infill in order to make it harder for wheelchair accessibility, you know, versus how soft the stadium is, how soft it is. So that would be designated in color, different color of turf and different infill.
Okay.
Can we just get the number, so for F, can we get or email the number that would be the difference between not turfing the outfield at the middle school? What that would offset?
I just thought, I can look it up. Mr. Schott will be out for a few days. It's not enough to offset that.
No, how much it would offset it, yeah.
I can get that for you tomorrow morning and email it out to you.
Then we'll have the different.
And know what you got to play with.
And just so the viewing public understands, historically, this parking lot behind the sports complex, when initially planned, we had actually petitioned PennDOT to have an exit and entry from 48 into this parking lot to allow for easy access, both in and outside of our area behind the sports complex.
Yep.
And this, I used to call it Loman's Plaza, was not as built up as it is now, and they denied that. There's an opportunity down the road here to bring that back, which would significantly reduce traffic coming off of Gateway Campus Boulevard.
My concerns here are the cost has already gone up because we waited a year with the excavation and gas. This is something that was in the original plans to have this all turfed up there. And I think with having everything on site and everything already set to go, I think it would be in our best interest to do it right the first time, get it done. And then the junior high field, I think we can address that down the road. But having this completely turfed up there will prevent any dirt and weeds from actually getting under the stuff that we do turf. And then having that still being maintained by grass cutters, et cetera, who are going to run up against those walls we put up there, and who knows what they're going to do to that. So I think in the best interest of the school, we look at what the cost is for the infield as a junior high, cut that out, apply that money to this to see what we can bring that down to, and at least get this area completely done and finished. So we are done with the high school, and that field can be rented out, used for gym classes, soccer teams, any sport, any activity wishes to use it. We don't have to maintain it, it's done. That's my thoughts.
So from Monroeville resident point of view, so how far you are from Moorside Boulevard now? And if you go 7 foot more in,
We're not moving the fence along Moorside Boulevard. We're just moving the softball outfield fence.
I see.
Closer to the
And we
fence.
have, Miko, if you can scroll up.
Probably have 30 feet, if not more.
No, it's not quite that much. It's a pinch point, but it's over 20, it's 20 at least.
Yeah.
So we have the room to do that and still have foot traffic and such around it. So you can see, I don't know, it's a little hard to see sometimes, but this is the outfield fence, this is the fence from Moorside.
I see.
So you have that space between.
So you have the option to merge the two.
No, we're not gonna merge them, we're still gonna keep a space between them. You need it for foot traffic and that type of thing.
Yeah.
What would be the projected date of all this being completed
Well,
after approval?
September.
we've been ready to put shovels in the ground with the initial portion. So they're waiting on approval so we know what to do, which direction to go. Actually, I have a meeting set up with the excavator and the engineer for next Wednesday morning.
But there's no supply chain issue with the champion wall, the fence, the turf as of today and this conversation.
What would happen is once approved, all that stuff those orders would be placed. You know, they don't have a problem they're still getting their supplies. We're still 2.5 months out from needing those things. Most of that up there is below ground. That's where a lot of the work is. There's a lot of excavation.
Drains.
And, all the drains, all the stone, all of that has to be done. And we call it the carpet, the turf. Those are the final things.
We've been guaranteed that the turf is what they call in the queue.
Yeah.
It's ready, it'll be here.
Yeah, baseball and softball, we have that in order. That's already ordered, designed, selected, all of that's good to go. We would have to add the phys ed portion onto it. So we would not get the two at the exact same time, but we don't need them at the exact same time. That's a lot of area to cover.
But we're looking at a reasonable time frame
We're looking-
as of today.
Yes, we're looking to have it,
Yeah, by the end of the summer.
end of September timeframe.
Do we know what the original cost was for the excavation?
Yes, it was 596,000. It was,
Now it's gonna be
700.
6,000.
Yeah, that I might have.
You can see a big expense is actually,
Fuel.
It's fuel.
Yeah.
the excavation, and drains.
That's
That's your
killing
big
us.
expense. The carpet is
Yeah,
not
they've
the big
held,
expense.
Shaw has been really good.
We locked that in prior to
They
COVID.
held those
His
numbers,
number is
even
really recent.
if we add stuff, they're holding that number for us because we've done so many. And their products are all petroleum based. So they're really holding, they're doing us a very
To honor that price,
positive
if we're
thing here.
shifting,
The infield over, yeah, I mean,
we have to talk to them about honoring that.
yeah, because we're getting the price locked in, I mean, that's another reason why to get this done now. You know, and I think we've used them over the years, I think we can also get them to lock in probably that price for the junior high.
They
down the
have,
road.
they've locked in what we've got now for it. You know, so they've been very accepting of the fact that we're adding something, they're not hitting us with a new number.
So
we-
option, oh, I'm sorry.
Are we still planning on moving the dirt down to the library field to make that
The
another?
spoils dirt, yes. That is the plan. We have to get rid of it.
Okay.
By doing that, we're not hauling it away, which means
Sitting
dump
on-
fees, truck time, and extra fuel cost. So it's actually a big advantage that we have this location to do that.
Approve that, and that's, I
Yes.
just want to make sure that's still in the works.
Yes, that is definitely in the works. That field down there is gonna be a tremendous band practice area. But, we, and all these turf projects, that dirt has to go somewhere. And since we have a spot to put it, it just saves us hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Michael actually has a photo of the plan for the exit entry behind the sports complex.
Oh, yes, that we mocked
Yes.
up.
Take a look at that. You see up top, the parking lot behind the Gateway Fury complex.
It's not our parking lot.
It's too black.
Paved.
Nice.
And you see the exit that's added in and across the street from 48 is the entrance into
Moments.
Plaza.
Nunzio's, the plaza there. So you see how that would look.
Michael did a great job there.
We would have a gate there and we'd be able to control that flow.
At any time we want, yeah.
Purposes, correct?
Yes.
Did we ask to get approved for that? I heard you say something.
No, this was 20 years ago. It was denied because the plaza wasn't built up then. So this is something that, we could definitely bring back up to PennDOT now.
I would advise we do that.
This includes all the drainage and stuff for the turf, and I know you're not
Yeah,
clairvoyant, but
yes.
you've
Yeah, it's
figured
that,
out how many little holes
I
are
don't
needed.
figure out how many holes.
It's pretty
Somebody
impressive.
else figures out how many.
Somebody else has-
Somebody else figures that out, but yes, it does, all the piping, all the stone,
But they'll say it's our cost.
and that's part of
All
that,
the undergrounds.
it's everything.
And
Yes,
there's additional that was needed and
yes.
and it's ridiculously
I mean, I'll explore it.
drainage.
Still not bad for that stone and the drain.
Oh, it is not, it's just
I mean, it's
today's prices are
right,
killing all of us.
but it's
Well, what do we do with the sprinkler system that's under there that we've never used? And the pump house?
Well, that sprinkler system has not been functional since before I came here 9 years ago.
Bill, one time, remember?
Yes, so, and over the years, different things that, and with the excavation we've done recently, it's defunct. It'll be dug up and thrown away. It's plastic pipe.
What about the pump house?
There is no pump in the pump house or anything for it. That has been disconnected, like I said, prior to me even being here. The water line comes into that building, but that also services the restrooms and concession stand.
Okay.
And that pump house, that stone pump house up there, houses all the electrical as well for that whole complex, which we just replaced all of that with all the new Musco equipment.
And the lights are completely done,
They're
turnkey?
going to do, once we finish our backstops, just what they call commission the Musco vision, because we couldn't do it at that point, because moving or talking about moving that field. So that all has to be lined up, but all the rest of the lights are fully functional on our remote system. So there's a handful of us that can turn them on from our phone if necessary. We set schedules that if we know they're practicing every day until 9:30, we just set the schedule and it's automatic. So Mr. Hall, myself, Maiko, Dave, my assistant, primarily are the folks who have access to that, and Matt Stakunas actually, because he runs a lot of that. So we don't want everybody to have access to it, but there's enough of us around.
And if a phone
that
call needs to be
if there's a
made,
late
someone can
phone
be
call, hey,
reached.
we need out there tonight, we do it right from home.
Yeah, I've turned on the football stadium lights from Cranberry, through the app.
Are you going to be available at the meeting Tuesday in case there's any questions?
I will be.
I'm just, yeah, I know, I'm just saying in case any other board members or
Planned
anybody
on
has
it.
questions, okay.
All right, so Val, you're the athletic committee chairperson, right? And so on Tuesday's meeting, you're going to make a report, and Scotty, you're probably going to offer a recommendation as to how we might best proceed and the timeline and the restrictions on the summer and the shovels in the ground and the prices going up and all this kind of stuff, so that the board has all the information, all the research that the good team has done here, which can be brought to the board at the study session on Tuesday.
We would like
Recommendations
to make it
be
an
made.
action item.
And then we're going to make it an action item so that we might be able to vote on it on Tuesday, right?
That way, on Wednesday, Bob has a meeting with the engineer
In the excavator.
and the excavator, so
So this could
they
move
will know
quite
the scope
quickly.
of where we're going. That's
Very good. Anything else?
Sounds good to me.
You want to call the meeting?
Anybody have questions?
Just
Go ahead.
two, not related, two things. One, great news, we put in for a grant from the Pennsylvania Special Education Department and through Special Olympics. And we received $15,000 to start up a unified bocce team. It's essentially, I mentioned it before to this group, it's essentially our learning support and life skills kids. I've seen it in action. It's a phenomenal event. We have one home event, and we treat it like a playoff basketball game. We try to get our whole student body there, cheering for those kids playing on an indoor bocce court against other schools that have it. And it's uniforms through the Special Olympics, coaching stipend handled through the grant. We have a meeting, an onboarding meeting, actually Monday with the Special Olympics folks and all of our internal people that are involved. Really excited about it. It's going to be a really cool program when we get it going. It'll be a winter sport.
Where would you put the court at, and then can the
it's-
court be movable?
Yes, it's portable, but it's provided by the Special Olympics as part of the deal, and it's PVC pipe, and it goes on your gym floor.
Cool.
So the balls are such that they're used indoors and don't damage anything, and the court is movable, and it's a winter sport where they'll practice in the sports complex and then play their home match there, along with a couple of away matches.
So Don, if I may give a little bit of background for what the definition of a unified sport is, the Pennsylvania Cable Network recently broadcast the Pennsylvania State Athletic Association's track meet.
Yep.
And they had a unified event. Now, what that meant is you have the regular high school, Class A, Class B, Class C, all those boys and girls would compete. And then when there would be generally break times, they would bring the unified kids in and have them perform their competitions as well. So you're having like 2 or 3 or 4 meets going on at the same time. Different classes, different sexes, and then the other athletes all working in a unified fashion because you already have the day set aside, the programs, the competitors, the people, the concession stands. You bring all that together for a better experience for the viewer and for the athletes as well.
One thing that's a little bit of a difference is that track we have for our gen ed students, as you mentioned. So unified track would be held in concert with a regular track meet. Whereas unified bocce involves a couple of gen ed students who volunteer, maybe want to be involved in becoming special educators or buddies to the other participants. So it's a mixed team where you have a couple gen ed students and learning support students
I like
on the
this.
bocce team. We don't have another bocce team where our gen ed students play. They would be part of this unified team.
This is much more inclusive, and it's in the spirit of athletics, where you want everybody to be able to compete and work together and win and jump and everything. Right.
That's just nice to hear good news and positive news. And,
Yeah, that's a good one.
yeah.
We're excited that we were able to, ask for the grant and
Well, I think it's
we got it, and they put us to the front of the line to get a team. There's a big waiting list.
Wow.
One other one too for this group is I'm gonna put a proposal together for August of something I mentioned in the previous meeting. We do want to look at it, and I've done a good study at paying weight room supervisors. It's pretty important that we supervise them correctly. We have a lot of gratis work being done, a lot of districts pay. I know all the numbers of everybody. I'm gonna put a proposal together that, here's what I think we should pay a couple of people per season to do that work.
Supervisors, what did you call it?
Weight room supervisor.
Oh, weight rooms. I'm sorry, I missed that first
In
word.
the weight room, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a pretty,
Intense.
I wouldn't wanna call it dangerous because we obviously,
Have to have.
but there's potential for great danger if we don't have the right supervision in
I
that.
think we might have had that in the past, and it was something that we cut.
We did, and some have, but many have brought it back or kept it, and it's something that I think makes a lot of sense,
Yeah. It's a risk factor.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Short, another question. With supplementals that we advertise, okay, for positions that aren't really open, do we have to advertise?
Per the contract, yes.
Teacher's contract.
Could that be changed when this contract is up?
Anything could be.
I have some ideas on that, there is some confusion every year from external people when they see the posting, they think every job is open or certain jobs can be applied for where they're not truly opened. But again, right now it's in the collective bargaining agreement. But if we talked to the negotiation team and said, here's what we want to do and gave them a good alternative, I don't think there'd be pushback if it made sense to everybody. And I think I have a sensible alternative that we would propose at that point.
All right, I just wanted to bring it up because there has been a question on it, so. Okay, no one have questions? Everybody in favor of adjourning?
Agreed.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Michael.
Thank you, gentlemen.